Kosovo is set to hold parliamentary elections this Sunday, and on the campaign trail, Prime Minister Albin Kurti has claimed that Kosovo's relationship with the West is at an all-time high. But this isn't exactly true. Kosovo, commonly considered to be the most pro-American and pro-West nation in Europe, is currently under sanctions from the EU, and according to Trump's administration, Kurti's government is not a trusted partner. So in this video, we're going to take a look at how the US and EU became Kosovo's most important allies, and why it now looks like the West has seemingly turned its back on Kosovo. We're getting remarkably close to 1 million subscribers, and currently 72% of you haven't yet subscribed. So lend us a hand and subscribe today. So, as with any video on Kosovo, it's best to start with a bit of context. Kosovo is often considered one of the most pro-American and pro-Western countries, thanks to the US-led NATO bombing campaign in 1999 against Serbia during the Kosovo War. Kosovans held widespread sentiments of gratitude towards the US and the West for liberating them from the oppression of Slobodan Milosevic's regime, and key Western politicians that led the bombing campaign enjoy a somewhat hero status in Kosovo, and a handful of Kosovans have even been named after some of these politicians. Then, when Kosovo declared independence from Serbia in 2008, the US became one of the first countries to recognize Kosovo, and today the US is considered to be Kosovo's most important ally. What's more, polling last year showed a whopping 92% of Kosovans would vote to join the EU, which is one of the highest percentage in the West Balkans, and in general, most Kosovans support a solely pro-Western foreign policy. However, at the same time, Kosovo's relationship with the EU and the US has become increasingly strained in recent years. In May 2023, the EU hit Kosovo with sanctions when violence broke out between NATO peacekeepers and ethnic Serbs in Kosovo, after ethnic Albanian mayors were installed in Serb-majority municipalities following elections boycotted by said Serbs. The sanctions effectively banned some high-level meetings between EU and Kosovo officials, paused EU projects, and curbed funding streams for Kosovo. Meanwhile, the US punished Kosovo by cancelling their participation in a NATO exercise, and said that the US had no enthusiasm to assist Kosovo in its efforts to gain wider international recognition or progress towards EU or NATO membership. Then this week, Trump's special envoy Richard Grenell spoke out against Kurti just days before the parliamentary elections, saying that the entire international community is against Kurti's government, which again doesn't really paint a rosy image of US-Kosovo relations. So why have relations soured so much? Well, as we see it, there are at least 3 reasons why. First, though, is Kurti's hardline stance towards Serbian influence in Kosovo. Second is the EU's policy of appeasement towards Serbian President Aleksandar Vucic. And finally, Kurti's antagonistic relationship with the Trump administration. So let's run through them one by one, and let's start by unpacking Kurti's aggressive Serbian policy. Essentially, ever since Kurti became Prime Minister after winning a landslide vote on an anti-corruption platform in 2021, Western leaders have found cooperation with Kurti increasingly difficult. In particular, the West has become increasingly agitated by the rapid-fire pace of Kurti's clampdowns on closing down Serbian parallel institutions in Kosovo. Now, these institutions are basically financed by Serbia and deal with everything from license registrations to cigarette stamps. Kurti has long argued that these institutions are technically illegal under Kosovo's constitution, and closures began subtly in 2022 with the takeover of municipal properties. By mid-2023 though, the process had gained momentum, and key institutions including urban planning directorates, public utilities, and post offices were shut. Then, early last year, Kurti moved to de facto abolish the Serbian dinar by banning dinar transactions, and vehicles were also required to switch from Serbian to Kosovan plates. Since taking power, Kurti has unilaterally closed more than 30 offices of the Serbian parallel administration. Yet his decision to do so has proven to be quite controversial among Serbs, who for years relied on these institutions to go about their daily lives. On top of this, last year, Kurti moved to open the Ibar Bridge in Mitrovica to vehicle traffic, despite Western allies urging him not to. Then, last month, members of his party moved to ban the main Serbian party in Kosovo from running in Sunday's election, although we should say that this move was later reversed by an appeals panel. Finally, Kurti has continuously refused to establish an association of Serb-majority municipalities, which would give the Serbian population a degree of self-governance. All of this combined has really not gone down well with the US or the EU, who have blamed Kurti for being too stubborn and accused him of acting unilaterally, purposefully stoking regional tensions, and undermining Kosovo's reputation as a reliable international partner. But it's not just the Prime Minister. The second reason that it looks like Western allies have turned their back on Kosovo is the EU's apparent appeasement policy towards Serbia's president, Vucic. In recent years, the EU has repeatedly threatened to impose sanctions on Vucic's regime, especially after Serbia refused to sanction Russia following its invasion of Ukraine. Yet, it's taken no action. The EU has also remained conspicuously silent regarding allegations of electoral rigging in the recent parliamentary elections and the ongoing mass anti-corruption protests in Serbia. Conversely, the EU has proved remarkably willing to impose sanctions on Kosovo, namely, as we've already mentioned, after the outbreak of violence in northern Kosovo following the boycotted elections back in May 2023. Now, the main reason for the EU's perceived softness towards Vucic is that European leaders fear that if they punish Vucic in any way, he will move closer to Putin, with whom he has continued to maintain a close relationship. There's also the fact that Serbia's significant lithium deposits are of particular interest to European countries, especially Germany and its EV industry, and that Serbia has also been a key partner for the EU in controlling migration flows. The last thing to mention is Kurti's antagonistic personal relationship with the Trump administration. For context, towards the end of Trump's first term in 2020, Kurti staunchly opposed Trump's efforts to get Kosovo and Serbia to sign a peace deal. Trump was running for re-election and, according to Kurti, badly needed some easy diplomatic wins. Kurti said that Grenell, Trump's special envoy for Kosovo and Serbia at the time, was squeezing Kosovo for concessions, pressuring Kurti to drop the 100% tariffs on imported Serbian goods and even consider a land swap with Serbia, a potentially deeply destabilizing move, which Grenell has denied ever even discussing. Kurti, who has long been staunchly opposed to any form of territorial exchanges, blocked this agreement, which prompted the US to freeze Kosovo's development aid, and Grenell even retweeted a call to consider withdrawing US peacekeepers from Kosovo. In response, Kosovo's parliament voted to remove Kurti, which was described by Kurti as a parliamentary coup d'etat supported by Grenell. Trump's return to the White House and bringing Grenell back with him really isn't a good sign for Kurti and future relations with the US. On top of this, Kosovo has already lost billions of dollars in funding following Trump's recent decision to withdraw US development aid from many countries. And Trump's transactional or quid pro quo foreign policy approach means that he may be far less sympathetic to Kosovo's plight for further international recognition. He might have only been in office for a few weeks, but Trump has already made a big impact, as we've covered extensively. But that's not all we have to say, because there's a lot of weird and wild things that we just don't have time to cover in videos. From Trump becoming an imperial president, to America's wild history of territorial expansion, to questioning if the US is actually an oligarchy. All of these things could quickly lead you to saying, WTF USA? Which is appropriately the name of the series, which I'm literally telling you about right now. WTF USA takes a tongue-in-cheek look at the wilder side of US politics, unpacking what Trump's really up to and why Trump's kind of weird decisions could end up being incredibly impactful. WTF USA is released every other Friday only on Nebula, the streaming service which we co-own with a bunch of your favorite creators. Those creators also make a ton of other exclusive Nebula content, including Tom Nicholas's new documentary, Boomers. In the feature-length documentary, Tom explores the wild truth that old people kind of run the world, unpacking why affordable housing, cheap education, and livable wages are slipping out of reach for younger generations, as well as discussing the questionable legacy left by the baby boomers. It's not just original content either. You can also watch every normal TLDR video on Nebula ad-free, and in some instances, before they land on YouTube. If you're not already a member, click the link in the description to get 40% off, which brings the price down to just $36 a year, or $3 a month. That's a real steal considering all of the original content on the platform, and the fact that signing up using our link directly funds the channel and allows us to make more content going forward. So thank you for your support, and please do join us over on Nebula.